Welcome to this tutorial video on Microsoft PowerPoint 2019, a tour. Microsoft PowerPoint is a very fun and useful software program. However, if you've never had a need to use it before, it can be a bit intimidating. This video is designed to give you a basic understanding of how the software is organized, with a specific focus on the ribbon. Specifically, after watching this video, you'll be able to define Microsoft PowerPoint. In other words, what it is and what it's used for. You'll be able to explain how Microsoft PowerPoint is organized so that you'll know where things are located and what they're called. You'll also be able to identify various parts of the ribbon, which is where all of the functions you'll need to use PowerPoint are located. Let's begin by talking about what PowerPoint is. Microsoft PowerPoint is a presentation software program that allows you to create slideshows to use during oral presentations. The software can be used for many types of slideshows, and some common ones are listed here. But please note, this is not an all-inclusive list. In most cases, people use a PowerPoint slideshow as a visual aid during some form of presentation in front of an audience. However, they can also be used to create slideshows that play in the background, such as a photograph slideshow, like something that you would use at a wedding or a family reunion. In order to effectively use Microsoft PowerPoint, you'll need to know where everything is located. So let's take a tour of the software. Our tour begins in the upper left corner with the Quick Access Toolbar, located here. The Quick Access Toolbar is a customizable command menu that is visible at all times while you're working with the software. You can add or delete buttons on the toolbar by clicking on the down arrow to display a drop-down menu with options. All of the options that have a check mark in front of them are on the menu. If you'd like to add a button, simply find the option and click on it, and it adds that button to the menu. If you decide you no longer want that button on the menu, click on the down arrow again, find that option, and click on it, and that button disappears. One button on the Quick Access Toolbar that is definitely worth mentioning is the Undo button. It is located here and looks like a backward-facing arrow. This particular button is useful because as you are working with the software, especially when you're learning, if you click on something accidentally, you can click Undo immediately after, and it will undo whatever it was you just did. It's like it never happened. So a very useful command button when you're learning the software. The next stop on our tour is the ribbon. The ribbon is located across the top of the screen. The ribbon contains the menus for all of the commands that you will need to perform the most common Microsoft PowerPoint tasks. The ribbon itself is divided into tabs, such as the File tab, the Home tab, the Insert tab, etc. Each one of these tabs is then further divided into groups. So the Home tab, for example, has a clipboard group, a slide group, a font group, etc. We're going to explore the ribbon in a lot more detail later on in the video. The next stop on our tour is the Slide Sorter area. This is located on the left-hand side of the screen. It allows you to select, add, delete, duplicate, and rearrange the slides. The slide sorter provides you with thumbnail images of all the slides in your presentation, and this sorter is vertically scrollable, so you can scroll down through your presentation in thumbnail form without affecting the main screen over here on the right. The next stop on our tour is the slide viewing window, located here. The slide viewing window is where you will create and edit all your slides. Next, in the lower left-hand corner, we have what's known as the slide counter. The slide counter tells you what slide you are currently working on in the viewing window out of the total number of slides. For example, if you have a presentation of 30 slides and you're currently working on slide 10 in the slide viewing window, then the slide counter would read slide 10 of 30. To the right of the slide counter is the Proofreading Status button. This indicator looks like a book. If there is an X on top of the book, then Microsoft PowerPoint has detected a possible spelling error in your slideshow. It won't tell you where, but it's meant to prompt you to run a spell check. Moving on to the right-hand side of the page, there's the Notes button. The Notes button displays a section below the current slide in the viewing window in which you can type talking points for that slide. You can see just a small sliver of it right here. To the right of the Notes button is the Comments button. The Comments button will display a pop-up section on the right side of your screen, and that section allows you to add comments to any slide. Comments aren't used very much, but it could be helpful if you submit your presentation to someone else for feedback. That person could then provide the feedback using the Comments button. On the right of the Comments button, we have the Slide View buttons. The Slide View buttons change how the slides are viewed in the slide viewing window. The first button is the default, and it is the normal view, which is what you see here. The Slide Sorter view changes the entire presentation into thumbnail slides. To the right of that is the Reading view. It shows slides in full screen, and you advance through them very much like a book. And then the final view button is the Slideshow button. This displays the slides as they would appear in a presentation. I'm going to go back to normal view because that's what most people work in. The normal view provides the largest view of the slides in the viewing window here, so typically speaking, it's much easier to create and edit slides in this view. To the right of the view buttons is the zoom function. The zoom buttons allow you to zoom into and out of your slide viewing window. You can adjust that in two ways. You can click on the minus button to zoom out, or the plus button to zoom back in. Or you can click, hold, and drag the bar in the center of those two buttons to zoom in or to zoom back out. The zoom function is really meant for you to get the slide in the slide viewing window in a size that's going to be comfortable for you to work with. To the right of the zoom buttons is the Fit Slide button. The Fit Slide button adjusts the size of the current slide so that it fits into the viewing window. So for example, if you zoomed out and then you click on the Fit Slide button, it automatically brings the slide to its full view in the viewing window. And then our final stop on the software tour is the scroll bar on the right-hand side of the page. The scroll bar allows you to scroll up and down through your slideshow in the slide viewing window. So by clicking on the down arrow, it progresses you from slide to slide. If you need to go back, you can click on the up arrow, and it takes you back to the beginning. So that's our tour of the software as a whole. Now I thought we would move on to the ribbon, because as stated earlier, the ribbon contains all of the commands that you need to create or edit a slideshow in Microsoft PowerPoint. Just a quick review that the ribbon is divided into tabs. So you have a File tab, a Home tab, an Insert tab, etc. Each one of these tabs is divided into groups. So on the Home tab, for example, you have a clipboard group, a slide group, a font group, etc. Now, as you can imagine, PowerPoint has a lot of functions in it. So it is possible that some groups may have additional functions that are not even displayed on the ribbon simply because they won't all fit. If you notice any grouping has a down arrow in the lower right corner, you click on that and it will display a pop-up window that contains all of the functions that would belong in that group, whether they're on the ribbon or not. So if you're working in Microsoft PowerPoint and you need to access a command and you think it would be on a certain tab in a certain group, but you don't see the command there, look to the bottom right of that grouping. There might possibly be a down arrow that you can click on to access more functions. Now let's go through each one of the tabs, just so that you have a general idea of what kinds of commands can be found on each one. We'll start on the left-hand side with the File tab. The File tab allows you to access various file functions. For example, you can open a file, save a file, print a file, or close a file. The most common function used in this particular tab is the Save function. I would highly recommend that as you're creating or editing PowerPoint presentations, that you save often so that you don't risk losing all of the great work that you've already done. The next tab is the Home tab. Clicking on the Home tab allows you to access some of the most commonly used functions in Microsoft PowerPoint, such as slide formatting, font formatting, paragraph formatting, and more. I highly recommend that you play with these to see what they do, especially the font functions. The font functions are used a lot in Microsoft PowerPoint because they allow you to change the style of your text, the size of your text, and the color of your text. PowerPoint can do a lot of fun things with text that add a lot of visual variety to your presentations. So feel free to play with these buttons, and don't forget your undo button. If there's something that you don't like, you can always click that undo button and it'll be like it never happened. The next tab is the Insert tab. Clicking on the Insert tab allows you to access a variety of features that can be inserted into a slideshow, such as pictures, tables, clip art, and more. If you were creating a photograph slideshow, this is the tab that you would use to insert photographs or pictures into your slideshow. The next tab is the Design tab. The Design tab allows you to access different themes that you can apply to your slideshow. These themes differ in font, color scheme, and background color. They can definitely add some flair to your presentation, so it would be a matter of clicking on different themes to see which ones you like. The next tab is the Transitions tab. Clicking on the Transitions tab allows you to access various styles of movement and timing for your slideshow as one slide moves to the next. Using transitions can add a lot of variety in your presentations. The next tab is the Animations tab. Clicking on the Animations tab allows you to access styles of movement and timing for elements within your slides. Those elements could include text boxes or pictures or charts. So maybe you need points on a particular slide to come in one at a time. You don't want all of them to be visible at once. This is the tab you would use to help you do that. The next tab is the Slideshow tab. Clicking on the Slideshow tab allows you to access various settings for your slideshow when you're presenting it to an audience. So this is the tab where you start the slideshow, or if you want your slides to cycle automatically in the background, you would set that up here too with the timings. The next tab is the Review tab. The Review tab allows you to access editing and proofreading functions for your slideshow. The most common one that's used is the spelling check, which is located on the left-hand side. By clicking on that button, you initiate a process where PowerPoint will scan your entire slideshow for possible spelling errors. However, I would recommend that you proofread it because sometimes the spelling check misses things. The next tab is the View tab. Clicking on the View tab allows you to change the way your slideshow is displayed in the viewing window while you're working on it. You may see that some of these buttons are familiar. The presentation views are over here. These are the layout buttons that I showed you earlier that are located in the lower right-hand corner. They're the same buttons. There's also a zoom function on this tab. The zoom function is also located in the lower right-hand corner. So most of the time, if these things need to change, most folks use the buttons in the lower right-hand corner. But the View tab also has some other options that you might want to play with that might come in handy from time to time. The next tab is the Help tab. Clicking on the Help tab allows you to access a few features embedded into Microsoft PowerPoint, including a training section. If you click on the Show Training button, it will take you to Microsoft's website where you can access tutorial videos, much like this one, in order to use PowerPoint more effectively. And finally, we have the Tell Me What You Want to Do. This isn't a tab per se, more so a tool. If you can't seem to find a certain command in the ribbon, you can type what you want to do, and Microsoft PowerPoint will look for commands that will match what you're typing. So, for example, maybe I want to take the text in a particular slide and I want to center it. So I want to align it to the middle of the slide. I can start typing what I want to do, and it brings up a list of options, one of them being Align Objects. If I click on Align Objects, it brings out a menu. If I want to click Align Center, it will take the text that I have selected and align it to the center of the slide. And I don't have to go looking on the ribbon for that button. It'll do it right from here. Well, that concludes our tour of Microsoft PowerPoint 2019. PowerPoint can be a very fun software to use, and it really allows you to let your creative side shine. Hopefully, by watching this video, you feel as though you have a foundational understanding of how the software is outlined and where all the functions are located on the ribbon. The real key is to keep practicing and playing. Don't forget your undo button, and you'll be amazed at what you can create. Good luck.